We are so excited to finally create a podcast. We've been doing a lot of work with our different social medias on Instagram, on Facebook, and because we've been spreading a lot of awareness about mental health and wellness, we decided to really spread our platform to podcasts. So while you're driving, while you are at work, got your headphones in the gym, you can still listen to us talk because I think we have things to say.
Yeah, and people like to hear us talk. We're counselors, so it's easy for us to just go on and on and on about things that are good and healthy for individuals to improve their own mental wellness. So hopefully you guys enjoy our podcast. Tune in. We have a lot of cool episodes coming up for you about emotional wellness, substance abuse, addictions, trauma, and ways to overcome so that we can be empowered in order to live a more empowered life.
Yes, so that being said, drum roll please. We are going to talk about substance abuse. What is it? What is addiction? What is recovery? And who helps those people who are struggling with addiction? So we are not only here with Darina and myself, we're also being joined by our Instagram live family, which is at Empower El Mundo. If you haven't checked our social medias, please go to Instagram, go to Facebook. We also have YouTube. We didn't mention that, Darina.
Yes, we haven't.
Hi.
Hey, everybody.
So, Empower El Mundo is where you can find us. Hi, everyone.
All right.
Are we live?
We are. It's waiting to get folks connected.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right, you guys. Well, I'm Darina. This is Deanna, and we have Miss Catherine Nesbitt.
Yay! Welcome. Catherine.
Yes.
We're so glad that you're here.
I'm so glad to be here. I'm so
Yes.
happy to be on social media now.
Yeah,
That's
Look
right.
at that.
Big time. It's 2019.
Listen,
It's
if you're not on
2019.
social media, what are we doing?
Honestly, at this point.
At this point.
You don't have to post anything, but you have to have some type of account.
Right.
Staying connected with people.
So,
Counselors are so good at shaming, just so you know. 'Cause that's what's happening right now. I'm getting
Professionals.
shamed for not having
This is
social
support.
media.
we
This
need
is
to
a
have it
interview about
immediately.
me. I'm getting shamed. I'm just on
Welcome
the
to the
Google.
show.
I'm just on the Google.
Listen, Catherine Nisbet is definitely on Instagram.
Yes.
We're gonna tag her nizzle.bizzle
Nizzle bizzle.
is where you can find her.
That's
So
right.
you will have access to her Instagram.
Dope
Yep.
counselor right here.
Yep.
Dope counselor.
Catherine,
What?
who are you? What do you do? Why
Well-
are you here?
So I am a independent substance abuse counselor. I have worked in the industry for 12 years. I've worked inpatient, outpatient, group homes. I've worked at private practice facilities. I actually have my own private practice, which is a big reason I'm here.
That's right.
Yay!
That's right.
Hope Counseling Group is a private practice I run. I've worked private pay. I've worked outpatient. I've worked prisons. Too much fun. I worked everywhere.
They
Okay.
are.
So I am a well-versed substance abuse counselor here to spread my knowledge
Absolutely.
of all of the things substance use and process addictions related.
Oh my gosh! Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Oh my God,
Thank
I'm
you
so
for coming.
excited.
You know, this is just a really trending topic because I think when we think of addictions, a lot of people go to substance abuse only, and so I think it's good that we have you here to kind of spread awareness of what addiction actually does mean, what
Right.
it entails, and how many things we can actually be addicted to. That'll be
Yep,
really
yep,
cool to
yep.
jump into.
Yeah.
So much fun
Yes.
talking about all the things that screw people up.
Yes,
Honestly,
which is what we
honestly,
love to help
honestly.
with as counselors.
Yep.
So, before we dive right into it, we wanted to give you guys an update. Darina and I, Empower El Mundo, we have now started a podcast.
What? Oh my
So-
god!
And I'm here on the
Yay! You're a special guest.
Yes.
So, if you are not able to catch our Instagram lives, then you will be able to watch. Well, I guess not watch, technically.
You'll be able
you
to
will
tune
be
in.
able to listen and tune in to our podcast.
That's right.
Which is today's first episode of the podcast will be about substance abuse.
Yes.
'Cause I'm awesome.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. So remembering that this is our Empower El Mundo program, and this is a platform that we use for mental health professionals like Catherine or anybody who is experienced in the mental health field, maybe you're in recovery yourself and you want to share your testimony, this is that platform that we created to empower el mundo, empower the world, right? Porque también hablamos español y queremos empower el mundo.
Yes.
That's right. Yes.
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit more about, you don't know, you had no idea what I said, huh?
I know, I'm not.
You're going to learn today.
It's okay.
But
It's
you
okay.
like
today.
went with it,
It's
like
okay.
you
I know, I was so
knew.
jazzercised
Obviously,
by
like-
it.
Did you say empower el mundo?
Empower el mundo.
Listen, it's clearly a vibe over here.
Yes,
That's what that is.
nothing but positive vibes, and that's what it should be when we're getting together talking about this
It
stuff.
should be. I mean, because you can't be so dramatic about things because you have to inspire people to live. So if you're inspiring people to live, they have to know that they can live happily on the other side.
That's right.
So many people go into addictions because they're unhappy and they think, oh, I'm getting sober, so I'm going to be immediately happy. Doesn't happen that way. You have to find happiness. So if we can sit here and have fun and joke around, that's what the happiness is.
That's right.
So then let's get to the core of, okay, what is substance abuse and addiction? Are they the same thing? Are they different?
So there's a big difference between abuse and dependence. So a really amazing movie that teaches about addiction is called Pleasure and Woven, that talks about addiction as being a disease of choice. So what ends up happening is I'm a high school student and I want to fit in, and so maybe I start hanging out with the stoners, or maybe I start hanging out with people that go to parties and start drinking. So then I want that acceptance, and I get that acceptance through my using behaviors. So maybe I get out of high school and I grow out of it. I don't really return to it. That's kind of an episodic use when I was a kid. So then as an adult, if I find that alcohol or drugs or shopping or gambling or sex or love, all of those things start filling kind of this empty feeling, and I start feeling good after I do them because my brain floods with endorphins when I get high, when I get drunk, after I had some good sex, or I gambled and I won a jackpot. All that happens is now my brain is reinforced.
What are endorphins?
Endorphins are these neurochemicals in your brain that get released, and it just makes you feel all happy and warm and cuddly inside, and it's like this amazing comfort. It's like after you've had a really good meal and you feel so good. And
Oh,
you're
that
like,
comfort
oh.
food.
You're just like, give me more. So it's the same thing with addiction. I want to feel good. This made me feel good. So now my brain is trained to do that. So the disease of choice. So now my brain says, oh, you like doing these things. I like you doing these things. Let's keep doing those things. So then it becomes dependence. So with certain substances, I get a crash, or I have withdrawal symptoms from using substances or doing things that flood me with endorphins. That's when my body is dependent on these substances because I don't have them anymore. So I have this amazing crash and nobody likes that, and I go through withdrawal, and now I need more of the substance to be able to get away from that crash.
Jeez, that's a vicious cycle.
Ooh,
That's
so
a vicious
bad.
cycle.
Oh, so bad.
I mean, and it's hard to, so, and when I hear you saying the crashing, it's like that up, down, up, down, up, down roller coaster where, you know, maybe my drug of choice is alcohol, but I try to stop, so then I go to cigarettes, and then I try to, you know, but
Or
now I'm
I'm-
not drinking, but now I do some more gambling,
Right.
you know, and it's just
Or-
kind of that.
Or I don't want to get too high on opiates, so I use some methamphetamines to kind of find
Balance
this
it out.
weird speedball balance.
Don't mess with meth, y'all.
Well, you know what? You know what I think that is finding something to like substitute or to balance it out.
Yes.
It's a lot of finding like justification of the behavior
Yeah.
internally.
Like I gotta go to work, so I'll do a little bit of meth or coke to keep me awake, but then when I get home I gotta go to sleep because I've been on stimulants all day, so I do a little bit of like oxys or maybe some alcohol to kind of help me put me to sleep.
Yeah.
But all I've done is now I've made my body dependent on it because now it's expecting that. So I'm not creating anything naturally. My body is just, hey, you did this yesterday, why can't we get some more cocaine?
You know what's interesting? The way that you talk about, you know, my body is craving it. It's similar to, you know, if I keep putting this in my body's getting trained to expect it. And just to kind of put it into perspective, think about the times that you eat. Some of us might be on a regular eating schedule, and we know that it's getting closer to that time for our dose or for our meal.
Then you get
because we
hangry.
get those, we get those cues, right?
Snickers commercials are there for
Yo,
a reason.
They know what they're
Hangry is
doing.
a thing.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Yes, and you're exactly right. So all of a sudden, my body starts expecting that next thing. So then I start creating thoughts related to it, like I gotta get my next fix. oh my gosh, I just took my last hit. I have about 5 hours until I gotta go get the next one. I gotta get money, I gotta get this, and all of a sudden I start in this vicious cycle of constantly getting, using, and preventing a withdrawal.
Yes. Golly.
But before, so what I'm wondering, and I think a lot of people who aren't familiar with the way that people function and like why people behave the way that they do, how do people get addicted?
Yeah.
Is it like, are you just born addicted? Because I hear a lot of people say, oh, I have an addictive personality.
No, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
And then I wonder, well, what is that?
So
You know what I mean? So how does that happen?
So there is nature and nurture. So there is a genetic component to addiction. So like for me, example, in my family, there's a genetic component. I have family members that have used alcohol to the point of where they could no longer function. There's also a nurture part of it. So if I am, taught that alcohol makes you feel better, well, that's what I'm going to go to because I don't have any other coping skills.
Yeah.
So if I don't know other ways to make me feel good, I'm going to learn by example that alcohol and drugs makes me feel good.
Yes.
So there's a lot of debate, and that's why I like the expression disease of choice. So I can choose to drink these things, but all of a sudden my brain chemistry changes. So when that brain chemistry changes, I no longer, I have to feed that change. So now my brain is constantly focused on getting and using because I like the way that it feels, and my brain is telling me that I need to have it.
So essentially,
What are you doing?
the cycle of it, she's waving to
I'm
people
saying
out
hi
there.
to folks.
Because
Yeah,
we
I
see
realized
all
you
of
didn't
you.
say hi to anybody.
And-
And I'm gonna put up I'm gonna pin a comment here.
Go ahead and
so
do
you guys
that.
can get her info.
So those of you who are just tuning in, we have Catherine Nisbet, who is in the house. She is a licensed independent substance abuse counselor. So she has her own practice where she's able to treat and work with individuals who are seeking help and seeking support, struggling in addiction, and also in recovery.
Yes,
Right?
very much so.
Okay, so we also had a couple of you guys send in some questions the other day, and we're gonna answer a couple of those. One other thing that we did mention is for those of you who are not able to watch the entire Instagram Live, we just created a podcast.
It's
So
the first one ever.
it is the first one ever. We're talking about substance abuse and addiction. So hopefully it's things that you guys can all benefit from. It's things that you guys can relate to, or somebody who could use some of this support. Okay. So
Questions. So we did have a couple people reach out to us about,
Yep.
how can I break a habit? So somebody was asking specifically about cigarettes, right?
Okay.
How do you break that habit? And I think, the two most used substances that are very accessible, cigarettes, alcohol, tobacco, alcohol, right?
Very much so.
So, how do I stop something that people are going to give to me legally? How do
Good
I break that
question.
habit?
Good question. So, in the kind of new trends, there is now, and the reason I'm going to start this is because it's very relevant to nicotine and alcohol. So, in the opiate epidemic that's happening right now in the United States, there is medically assisted treatment, which is medication that basically helps somebody not crave and not use opiates. Or if they use opiates, it doesn't do anything for them. They don't get high, they don't get any satisfaction. It's really kind of dull. It reinforces the sobriety, the recovery aspect. So then they don't want to get high because it's not doing anything. So with alcohol and nicotine, you have those things available too. So you have medically assisted treatment to help come off of nicotine. So you can't just stop. So a lot of people say, oh, I can go cold turkey.
Yes.
A lot of people can. A lot of people can. I'm not saying that you can't. A lot of people can. It
but
depends.
it's not going to be a simple process,
Right.
and it's not always the most effective
gonna
for
go through
everyone.
withdrawal.
Right.
You're gonna have
You're
withdrawal,
gonna feel kind of
and then you're gonna
Yeah.
replace whatever it was
Right.
that you went cold turkey with something else. And
And
it
it's-
could be relationships,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
It could be gaming,
So
right?
much.
Internet stuff, addiction, all
And
that.
nicotine, you have a withdrawal. So if you're cranky and irritable and you get headaches, that's withdrawal
Oh,
symptoms.
man, yeah.
Right.
If you drink a lot of caffeine and coffee and then all of a sudden you decide you don't want to, have you ever had a caffeine headache?
Oh
my
gosh.
gosh,
That's
it's awful.
And the way it shows up too
It's
is like I'm
awful.
definitely more irritable, which means I
Yep.
don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. But if you talk to me, I'm gonna let you know I'm not
You're gonna die.
I'm not in the mood.
Not in the mood.
You don't see the face?
So nicotine, you have things like patches, you have gum, but in addition to that, just like they teach with MAT for opiates, you have to start identifying your behaviors that go along with it. So if you always smoke in the car, being able to understand, okay, if you have your, you have your cigarette with your morning coffee to start your day, that nicotine is a stimulant. So I'm stimulating my brain to all of a sudden wake up. I gotta find new ways to wake up. If I use it for a stress reliever, try deep breathing. You're gonna have to replace other things with other things because your behaviors have to change, not just taking something away.
Yes.
With alcohol, there's the same thing. There's Campril, there's Antabuse, Vivitrol right now is being very successful for alcoholics. All of those things you can prescribe. Antabuse is a behavioral modifier, which means you take Antabuse and you drink alcohol, you violently throw up. It is like disastrous.
Yeah.
And what it's supposed
It
to
really
do,
is.
it's
It really
so
is.
bad. And what
Yeah.
it's supposed to do is change your brain and your behavioral reaction to drinking alcohol.
It's like, to put it into perspective, I had a dinner party a couple years back. I remember this. I had a dinner party and had hummus before the dinner party and got really sick. I think I overdid it on the hummus. I ended up, vomiting.
How much
And ever
hummus are we
since then,
talking
I
about?
probably put away quite a bit.
Okay.
But I vomited, and ever since then, you can ask Deanna, every
No
single
hummus.
time, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't want it. And it's not that it's not good, it smells good to me, but it's just that association.
I had the same thing with gummy
Yes.
bears. When I was a kid, I was traveling up to Munns Park, which is in between Phoenix and Flagstaff, and I just kept eating this bag of gummy bears.
Oh.
We stopped, and I'm like, ooh, that feels bad. All of the gummy bears
Came right out.
To this
Man.
day, I can't eat gummy bears. You show me a gummy bear, I want to throw up.
That's what
Behavioral
Antabuse
modification.
does. That's what Antabuse does.
I don't
It
really
is a
think
behavior
that-
modificator.
I don't know if I have one of those. I have things that I just don't like.
Oh,
Like
we
I
so
don't
lucky.
like mushrooms.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
like the texture.
Yeah.
I don't think I have,
You don't
I like
have
to think
disgust. You're
I
not
like to think
disgusted
that
by anything.
I'm really resilient with food.
That's
But Antabuse works that exact same way. It modifies behavior because it's like your
Yes.
stomach is trying to come up through your esophagus.
Yeah.
That's how it's been
The
described.
worst.
yeah.
And it
It's not
also
gonna kill you. It's not gonna kill you.
It's
but-
absolutely going to be painful.
But it's going to let you.
Oh.
It's going
Oh.
to motivate. It's going to reinforce.
You're gonna think
discontinuing
alcohol is
behavior.
the worst thing in the entire planet. You're never gonna want to do it again. But that's why it's there. So
Yeah.
even something that's legal is there are ways to deter people from not using legal substances because that's a big justification. Well, it's legal, so if it's legal, I should be able to do it until your life starts getting mismanaged.
Yes.
And that's when we kind of get into the addiction dysfunction kind of realm. DSM bases it off of mild, medium, and severe.
Yeah.
Based on
the
criteria.
The DSM is a manual that we use to diagnose a condition or disorder.
Right.
So then with that being said, what are some specific symptoms that some of the people who maybe they don't know, or maybe they have a friend that they're concerned about, or maybe they're thinking about this for themselves, what are some specific things or symptoms to look for in identifying if somebody does need some more help because
Gotcha.
addiction is an issue?
So
Or
DSM
dependency.
classifies a lot of dependence based on dependence and tolerance. So tolerance is, I go out on a Saturday night and I have 2 drinks and I'm kind of buzzed. I go out the next night, I need 3 to get the same effect. So I need more of the same substance to get that high, to get that endorphin feeling. That's tolerance. And then the levels of withdrawal. So if I start having withdrawal symptoms like a really bad hangover because I'm dehydrated, or I start kind of having tremors because I have so little alcohol that I need alcohol. Hair of the dog is basically a fun term for alcoholics because they have to keep drinking the next day.
Yep.
Life mismanagement comes into this well. Legal issues are not classified. So just because you have legal issues doesn't necessarily mean you have an alcohol or a drug disorder.
Yes.
Which
Which is really important.
Really important.
Which is really important to
very
know.
important. Mismanagement of life. So basically, are you losing jobs? Are your family and your relationships becoming affected? Are you starting to do risky behaviors to get what you need? So for ladies, am I starting to kind of, I don't know, sell myself to get what I need? Am I, if I'm a guy, am I breaking into houses? If I'm a girl, am I starting to sell drugs? What am I doing to be able to keep having the
Stealing,
drugs.
yeah.
And you know, and I think that everyone, at least as they age, they start to realize that addiction, it's not like, oh, it's the people over there. Addiction is very much
It's everywhere.
individuals that
Every
you can know.
every status, every range of money, everywhere.
So something that's coming to mind, and because I know that a lot of our viewers are parents, they are within their 20s to 30s. So something that's important to know is if you are somebody who's struggling with that, like, you're not alone. I knew an individual who was a parent in a loving home, married, has a couple of kids, very successful, and after a while, the behaviors and like the struggles in life just started to pile on, and to where like the relationships started to separate, right? The friendships started to become more distant. Isolation was becoming super apparent. And even if on the outside the image looks amazing and it looks beautiful and it puts well put together, it's important to know that it's not always what it looks like, and there's ways to get help.
There are a lot of ways.
A lot of ways.
And it can be anyone.
And so to kind of touch on what you said, so addiction doesn't have to start in high school. So I've worked with people that lost a child, lost a spouse, lost a sibling, lost a parent. That all of it, that got into an accident and started getting medication that they really weren't supposed to get, but because of prescribing, and now the laws are changed, but because of that, they became dependent on the medication, and then when they couldn't afford the medication, turned to heroin.
Right.
Then there's also people that it's about accessibility. It's about maybe being acceptable. So I'll drink, but I won't use like heroin, because heroin's like, everybody's like, ugh, no
Right.
heroin. Or I got introduced to it because my husband did it. So I didn't want to break up with him, or I didn't want the relationship to end.
Right.
So I'll do what he does, so then at least we're still together doing it, and he's not going to leave me. So there's some codependency stuff in there too. I mean, and there's no gateway drug.
Marijuana.
There really isn't.
Drug.
There
It
really
is
isn't.
so not. Pills can be a gateway drug. I can get into an accident, I could break a bone, and the next thing I know, I'm using Oxycontin 8 times a day. I could smoke weed, never smoke weed, and then all of a sudden I start drinking alcohol, and the next thing I know, I need to wake up the next morning, so I'm doing coke.
Yep.
So typical.
Yeah.
So typical.
Yeah.
There is no such thing. What the gateway drug is emotional issues.
Yes.
So the problem with substances is not the
Here,
substance.
it's the core.
It's the core. It's what people connect or lack connection with. So if I'm depressed and speed wakes me up and I can get up and do things and I can take care of my kids, I'm gonna do speed.
Yep.
And you know what the core of that is every individual goes through a difficult moment. They go through a crisis, they go through stress, anxiety. Some can experience depression, trauma. Those different moments that can cause us to have to respond in a way. So for instance, if we go through a traumatic event and we choose to act like it never happened, or we go into denial about it, or we try to find a different Band-Aid to cover the pain, that issue is still going to be there. So whatever that Band-Aid is, whether it's marijuana, alcohol, pills, whatever that is, at the core, that issue and that emotional distress is still there.
You have a broken bone.
Yeah.
And you're putting a Band-Aid on it. It doesn't work that way. The bone is still broken. So once you start peeling back the substance use and you start realizing, I use substances as a coping skill, you have to learn to start recoping. You have to start and build up your resiliency to handle stressful situations, to handle trauma, to do all of this stuff, because otherwise you're gonna go out and keep drinking because that's your only coping skill. So you have to be resilient and you have to take on challenges and problems for what they really are. And alcohol and drugs is just a coping skill.
It really is. If you guys, for some of the viewers, if you guys looked at our story over the last 24 hours, we had multiple questions about, substance abuse is possible to end if, and there was the options if I stop cold turkey, if I avoid it, and then if I ask help from the professionals. The correct answer is if you ask for help. That's
Ask for
always
help.
the correct answer.
There are tons of resources, crisis
Yes.
lines. Out in the West Valley and some parts of Scottsdale, there's the Angel Network where you can turn in your drugs to the police and they'll help you go to a treatment center. You can do a Google search for Arizona addictions and you can go anywhere, whether you have access, private insurance, anything you need, and get a genuine assessment of what level of care is going to work for you. Whether you need a social detox or outpatient, whatever you need.
Or who else can they call?
Then call me.
Right?
Yes.
You can find me on the Google. I like saying that because they get a kick out of it.
We are gonna tag her, and we're so that you guys can contact her. Also, feel free to reach out and schedule an appointment. Go to our website and schedule an appointment. We can see how we can provide different resources and get you connected or get a loved one connected to some sort of support. Because even when there is addiction, there's also the chance of recovery.
Oh, every day. If you're not dead, you're recovering.
There it is.
You're able to get to that point of living life in a way that feels empowering to you and that feels okay to wake up to every morning. Right?
Man, sobriety is so worth it. Sobriety is so worth it. If you, even if you don't abuse substances, if you don't think you have an addiction, I want you to think about a time that you made a healthy change for yourself and how good it felt, right? To realize that I actually can stick to this. That's what sobriety is. You might not realize it, but you are being sober from a maladaptive or unhealthy behavior. And that's the biggest goal. That's what we all want for you guys too. If you're not sure how to work towards sobriety, if you don't know what the road to recovery looks like, or if you're afraid because maybe you've tried it before, reach out. That's the best thing that you can
hit us up.
Hit
up Catherine.
You can always call me. I'll walk you through it. Just because I have a private practice doesn't mean I'm not in the business of helping people. Because my level of care might not be the level of care you need. But I am happy to be a resource because one person in recovery is so much better than 50,000 that are living in addiction right now.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That is right.
Thank you guys.
That was amazing, Catherine.
Thank you.
Because it's so cool.
She's on the Google.
She's on the
Finds her on the Google.
You can type in Hope Counseling Group. Hope actually stands for Hold On, Pain Ends.
Ooh.
H-O-P-E.
Do you feel that?
Yo.
She's got the gooses.
Right here.
She's got the goosebumps. Let me tell you. I was pretty impressed with myself when I came out.
It's pretty
That's
creative.
so
Let's be honest.
Honestly.
So you can find this. We're going to upload our podcast. We will provide the link in our bio. Give us a little bit of time before you guys go and look for it.
You can find Catherine on Facebook.
Definitely on Facebook. It's at Addiction Counseling Treatment. Hope Counseling Group. You can search for that. I do a lot of posts about just recovery in general, how to connect with us, and just important information. We do a support group through Hope Counseling Group, which is called Smart Recovery, which is a cognitive behavioral tool. It's a discussion group where we basically sit around. We don't judge by labels, time clean. It's basically how can you get help today? What are the positives, challenges, and what are your goals?
That's right. That's right. That's right. The only thing stopping you from becoming a healthier you is you.
So remember,
we have a lot of platforms.
Yes.
So we have our own platforms as well.
Let them endorse themselves.
So we are Empower El Mundo. Again, we're here to empower others to be able to spread and share their own testimony. That's right, in El Mundo, right? We want to empower El Mundo. Yes.
That's what that means.
Connect to connect to all of the people.
Look, we're all here to learn and spread knowledge, right?
Yes.
So check us out, Empower El Mundo. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube channel at Empower El Mundo.
And let me just say, they're amazing. Their topics, their podcasts, whatever you want to call them, because I'm not social media savvy, whatever, the little videos, they're fantastic. If you have questions about mental health, these are ladies that can help break it down in a way that is so much easier.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're very
for that.
All right, you guys. Be empowered.
Live empowered.
All right, you guys.
Ciao.
Keep it real in these
Ciao,
streets.
Bella.